sir.
Yes, madam, we can start. I think madam has joined. Hello, madam. Sri Priya, madam. Hello. Yeah, please unmute.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Well, good afternoon, madam. Thank you. Yes, Pratibha, madam.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yeah, you can start now.
Good afternoon to everyone. It gives me immense pleasure in welcoming all of you to the session 3 of the third day of Atal FTP Green Communication. And the session is Understanding Cognitive Radio for Green Communication by our speaker, Dr. K.C. Sri Haripriya, Associate Professor, School of Electronics Engineering, VIT, Vellore. Dr. K.C. Sri Haripriya has expertise in 5G communication as she has been a part of 5G testbed project at IIT Madras. She completed her postdoctoral fellowship in IIT Madras. Her PhD is in the area of wireless communication engineering relating to cognitive radio. She has publications in SCI, Thomson Reuters Index journals. She also has 15 years of teaching experience, which includes 6 years of research experience. Currently, she is working as associate professor in Vellore Institute of Technology, Vellore. She is an active reviewer in peer-reviewed journals related to communication and signal processing. She has authored the book titled Cognitive Radio in the year 2019. She has been a 3GBP RAN 1 delegate representing IIT Madras, funded by TSDSI. Government of India. She worked towards the standards and specifications for 5G, and her research interest includes communication, signal processing, and machine learning with IoT applications. She has also recently filed a patent on intelligent communication for smart grid. So these are very good achievements of ma'am. Ma'am, we welcome you for this session. And this is over to you, ma'am.
Thank you. Thank you for the introduction.
Thank you, ma'am.
It's my privilege to be a part of your program. I thank the PMIS team and also Gowda sir and others who has given me this opportunity. Thank you for giving me this opportunity. Hope it is visible.
Still, it is not yet, madam. Sharing content is coming. Yes, madam. It's visible. You can go for.
So I can proceed with this now, sir?
Yes, madam. You can go for slideshow, madam.
Yes, sir. Yes. Hope it is visible properly.
Yes, madam. Very much.
Oh, yes. So I thank Gowda sir and all the other members of this program for giving me this opportunity. It is always a privilege to be under the roof of people who work together, who work in the same area, and it is a privilege for me to be here. Thank you for giving me this opportunity. So this session, as the program itself is about green communication, and my area of research interest was on communication, cognitive radio, and 5G. I thought it would be better to give an understanding on what cognitive radio and how the functionalities of cognitive radio is, and how it supports everything, right from 5G when you take how it supports 5G, how it supports green communication, how it supports the other AI techniques and other things. Everything cognitive radio itself, the functionality by itself supports many other technologies. So I thought to give a better understanding of what cognitive radio is and how the functionalities of cognitive radio, the features of cognitive radio would support green communication. The other people, I think they would have gone into the details of the power consumption, the energy harvesting, and other things. But this is about the understanding of cognitive radio, which will help you to proceed more into the other features of the other challenges that is met by green communication. So this is to give an understanding of cognitive radio, as I mentioned. So first, when you take green cognitive radio or green energy powered cognitive radio, these radio networks are capable of liberating the wireless access networks from spectral constraints and the energy constraints. And it will also help in increasing the network availability so that it can help or it can emerge into the new network applications or the other applications in different areas. It is considered to be the most promising and very attractive and new technology too, because it offers better spectrum utilization. Because spectrum utilization is said to be the base feature or the base functionality of cognitive radio. So we'll see how it can be achieved and how it is being achieved by cognitive radio. And also it gives better spectrum efficiency and it helps in maximizing the energy efficiency too. So this green cognitive radio or green energy powered cognitive radio, these are radios or cognitive radios or the cognitive radio users which are aware of the sustainable development that is need to be taken in terms of conserving energy or power or whatever it might be, and it takes it as an additional constraint, the energy harvesting or the power constraint, all this into an additional constraint into the decision-making process. There are multiple features or multiple architectures in defining the cognitive radio. And one of the important feature would be the cognition cycle, which comes under the cognitive radio architecture too. So this cognition cycle will help you in understanding what the feature is, understanding what the environment is, and help you to incorporate the previous data and the new coming data and put everything together to come into a decision. So when it comes to a decision, here we include the other parameters which will help you to achieve or which will be a feature for the green communication. So there are many sensors that has been distributed here to bring out correct decision in order to meet this energy constraints or power constraints or the spectral constraints or the sustainable development constraints, which adds to the green communication. So there are also multiple artificial intelligence machine learning algorithms which will help in achieving less power or which becomes more responsive. So all these features will help cognitive radio for a better green communication or will help you in developing a green cognitive radio. In that way, there are many sensors. We're not going to get into the deeper details of what the type of sensor is or what are the types of algorithms we enter into. We'll see how the functionalities of cognitive radio is, which would support green communication. So in that way, when you come to know about the spectrum fact, I would say spectrum is a natural resource and there is fixed spectrum assignment which is already being allotted, and we know the bandwidth is also becoming expensive. Day to day it has become even more expensive, and the important thing is Federal Communication has reported that not all the spectrums are utilized properly. Some spectrums like cellular bands are being heavily used, while the TV bands and other spectrums are not at all used. Very, very less usage of it is there. So there is inefficiency in usage of the spectrum. So we need to opportunistically use the spectrum. We should properly categorize and use the spectrum in order to avoid this problem. So this is the fact which we understand from the spectrum way of utilization. So there is an inefficiency in utilizing the spectrum. So this can be avoided by going into dynamic spectrum access. So when you take dynamic spectrum access, this is a new paradigm that will allow the users, the secondary users. We come to know what is secondary users, what are primary users, licensed, unlicensed users. So these dynamic spectrum access will help you to use the spectrum in a dynamic way, use the spectrum in an opportunistic way, in a better way, so that there is a proper, so that we would be able to achieve better utilization of the spectrum. So how can this be achieved? This dynamic spectrum access can be achieved by using a clever radio or a clever system, which is said to be the cognitive radio. So what does this dynamic spectrum access is? It will allow the secondary users or the unlicensed users to access the spectrum holes or the white spaces, that is the unutilized portion in the licensed spectrum band. And this technology will alleviate the spectrum scarcity problem, and also it will help in increasing the spectrum utilization. So the most, it is said to be the most vital and the major commercial application of the cognitive radio. Achieving dynamic spectrum access is one of the most very important functionality for cognitive radio. So the main task here is to overcome two interferences that is caused by device malfunctioning and also by the malicious users. So the three functions that will be involved here in dynamic spectrum access will be spectrum awareness, cognitive processing, and spectrum access. So when you take spectrum awareness, it will create awareness about the radio frequency environment. When the spectrum access provides the ways to use the available spectrum opportunities for reuse in an efficient way. Next, coming to the cognitive processing, it is an intelligent and decision-making function that will perform several subtasks or several submodules like learning of the environment, designing sensing in an efficient way, and access policies which will help you in managing interferences for coexistence of the secondary users along with the primary user networks. And there are different approaches of DSA models that can be classified as dynamic exclusive use or open sharing model and hierarchical access model, and all this will help in achieving dynamic spectrum access. So by using this dynamic spectrum access or achieving this dynamic spectrum access would be possible by a cognitive radio. So instead of utilizing a single band, we try to occupy all the bands whenever the primary user or the licensed user is not using it. That is, this figure will clearly explain what the cognitive radio is helping you to achieve. So when we talk about cognitive radio, as we know, it is an intelligent, adaptive, aware system and a network technology that can automatically detect the available channels in a wireless spectrum and can change the transmission parameters, which will help in enabling more communication to run concurrently, and also it will help in improving the radio operating behaviors. And it also optimizes the use of available RF spectrum while minimizing the interferences, maximizing the throughput, and facilitating the interoperability with other users. So simply stating, it is an intelligent aware radio system which will help you to work in a dynamic way. It will help you to sense the environment and help you to process or program or move further according to the changes needed. And these changes can be done by the cognitive radio by itself. So there are two important characteristics of cognitive radio. First is the cognitive capability. As the name itself indicates, it is the cognitive capability. How do you state this cognitive capability would be, it refers to the ability of the environment around itself by capturing the variations and capture or it can sense the information from its radio environment. And it cannot simply be realized by monitoring the power in some frequency band of interest. But you need to have more sophisticated techniques in order to capture the temporal and the spatial variations in the radio environment, and also avoid the interferences to other users. By using this capability, the portions of the spectrum that are unused at a specific time or location can be identified, and consequently, the best spectrum and the appropriate operating characteristics can be selected. So this cognitive capability will provide spectrum awareness. It's coming to reconfigurability. Again, the name itself gives you the feature. It enables the cognitive radio to change its parameters according to the environment which is sensed. Using cognitive capability, we look or we sense the changes, and using reconfigurability, the cognitive radio changes itself. It adapts itself and according to the environment in which it is lying. So it enables the cognitive radio to be dynamically programmed according to the radio environment, and more specifically, the cognitive radio can be programmed to transmit and receive on a variety of frequencies and use different transmission access technologies that has been supported by its hardware design. So the ultimate objective of the cognitive radio or the achieving all these characteristics would be clearly noted and clearly explained or clearly seen in cognition cycle. We'll see about the cognition cycle. So the objective here would be to obtain the best available spectrum and reconfiguration. Most of the spectrum, it will be already assigned. The most important challenge is to share the license spectrum without interfering with the other licensed users. So that is the challenge that is here for us to proceed. Next, getting into the comparison of radios. So here into the understanding of the traditional system or the traditional radio where you have all the features. So on all things in traditional radio or SDR or NCR, we have the RF module, modulation techniques, the coding schemes, the framing and processing, everything. The features of it would be the same, but how the processing of it happens, that varies. So when you take in a traditional radio, the RF modulation and coding, all this would be the hardware part. Only the framing and the processing would be done through software. The next development was with SDR. So when you take an SDR, only the RF front end will be the hardware portion. All the rest of the process, modulation, coding, framing, processing, everything has become software. Everything can be processed, programmed, and used. So far, the mobile phones which we use is based on the SDR technology. All the 4G phones, 3G phones, whichever we use, it is based on the SDR technology where everything is being programmed except for the RF front end. When you take cognitive radio, it is the same principle as that of SDR. Actually, cognitive radio is built on SDR. It is same as that of SDR. The only difference is here you will have an intelligent algorithm. So in the software programming part, the processing part, software processing part alone, you will have an intelligent algorithm which will help you to sense the environment, learn the environment, and it will help you to optimize, adapt to it, and optimize the features and process it and program it. So that is the only difference between SDR and CR. Here you have an intelligent algorithm which will sense the environment and it will reconfigure and adapt to the environment and make changes in its operating parameters according to the environment in which it is being used. Or it can be stated as according to the application in which it is being used. So that is the difference between SDR and CR. Preferably the 5G phones which we use, which we are about to use, might be we will start using it by in the next 6 months. That is what I received the information. So might be in the next 6 months, we'll be having a 5G phone, and we Indians will not be using the same 5G phones like that of Koreans or Chinese or Japanese. We'll be having a different specifications in our 5G. It is not the same as the entire world. So far, you would have noticed that the phones, whatever be the phones that has been sold in India, they don't have any specifications to be noted specifically for India. We don't have any specific rules and regulations. So any vendor can get into India and sell their mobile phones, and either it can be Apple, it can be Samsung, it can be Huawei, it can be any mobile phones. Any vendor can get into India, they can sell their cell phones, and but as of 5G, that would not be the case. There are two things that has been involved here. One is the specification itself for India varies. The second thing is this specification change for India was supported by DOT, Department of Telecommunication, with sponsorship with TSDSA. So TSDSA has specific separate rules and regulations for any vendor who is going to sell their phones in India. So we have specific rules and regulations for 5G. So preferably the cognitive radio technology is used in most of the 5G phones, and that is why we enter into how we can save power or how we can save energy or whatever it might be, and how we can support green communication. That is where the idea developed with the support of cognitive radio for green communication. So that is the major difference between the traditional radio system, the software radio system, and cognitive radio. So everything was hardware, nothing can be updated, nothing is upgradable, nothing is future-proof in the conventional radio system because everything was programmed earlier, everything was hardware-oriented. In software-defined radio, we had the features of hardware RF front end. Along with that, we had the software architecture reconfigurability, where it was made future-proof with proper upgrades that can be updated later. Cognitive radio developed it even more to the next extent of having the SDR framework. Along with it, we add an intelligent algorithm which will help you to change its features or change its parameters according to the environment or according to the application. And we have collaborative upgrades. Any updation, any upgradation can be done instantly on cognitive radio. That is why it is supported with 5G, it is supported with green communication, because anything and everything can be programmed in a better way, in an easier way, and an optimized way in using cognitive radio. Now, coming into why cognitive radio is said to be smart and alert, or how it is considered to be more functional, is because it knows, we know cognitive radio is an alert. We know where it is, we know what the services are available. It can identify and use the empty spectrum to communicate more efficiently. It knows what services would interest the user, and it knows how to find them. It knows the current degree of needs and also the future likelihood of the user. It learns and recognizes the usage patterns, and it also applies model-based reasoning about the user needs, the local content, and the environmental context in which it is. That is why cognitive radio is said to be smart and alert. So we have variety of contexts in which it can be used. First is it can autonomously exploit the locally unused spectrum to provide new paths to the next is it can roam across the borders and it can adjust themselves to stay in compliance with the local regulations. Next is it can negotiate with several service providers or networks to connect a user to the lower cost for the optimal performance, which is said to be network aware. Next, it can adapt themselves and their emissions without user intervention. At last, it is user aware because it can understand and follow actions and choices according to the user's needs. And over time, it will learn to become more responsive and to anticipate the needs of the user. So, you know, it has different context in all these ways. So, cognitive radio is said to be more intelligent in any of the application which it is being used. So, first is the primary user. They are the licensed users. They pay amount and they get the license. They are said to be the primary users, the licensed users. They have the highest priority to use any spectrum, any band in which it is being operated. Coming to the secondary users, they are the unlicensed users, or they are also called as cognitive radio users or CR-enabled users. They have low priority utilizing a spectrum than the primary users, because primary user has bought license for some spectrum, and the secondary users will try to use it when they are not utilizing it. So the secondary user has lower priority compared to the primary user. So we try to define different algorithms in a way that the secondary user can go and use the band which is being utilized by the primary user without affecting them. So the important part here is the spectrum hole, or the said to be the white space. This is said to be the frequency band that has been assigned to the primary user at a particular time in a particular location when this band is not being utilized by the primary user and it is left free. That is called as the spectrum hole or the white space. So our ultimate aim of using a cognitive radio is to identify the spectrum hole so that we can make use of it. In that way, it can help, it can efficiently utilize the spectrum, it can reduce the energy, it can reduce the power, it can opportunistically use the spectrum. Everything becomes possible with spectrum, with identifying the spectrum. Though there are many functions in cognitive radio, we'll see about it in later. That is spectrum sensing, spectrum management, spectrum mobility, many things. Spectrum sensing is the core of cognitive radio, because unless you don't identify the spectrum hole, the other things cannot be processed. So the particular or the main objective of the cognitive radio, the heart of cognitive radio is spectrum sensing, where we try to identify the spectrum hole, that is the frequency or the band which is being allocated, which is being licensed by the primary user, and when it is not utilized. So at a particular time, it is not being utilized. To find the time when it is not being utilized. So we have several research going on here. We have several algorithms that has been developed, and it is still being developing, which will help you to identify the spectrum hole in a better way. We try to optimize it in different ways. So what are the benefits of cognitive radio would be? We have many business opportunities. We have new applications that has been developed. And the important thing is dynamically utilizing the spectrum. Opportunistically, every opportunity of spectrum is being utilized. That is dynamic spectrum access. Then it is interoperability and improved vertical handoff. Either it can be public safety or in military applications, anything where we have multi-network selection and we try to select the best network access. Next is about link optimization, where we try to adapt away from bad channels and increase the data rate on good channels. We have better usage of other resources, advanced networking, increased capability and capacity and higher data rates, improved coverage and improved link reliability, improved service qualities, low-cost services and potentially low-cost devices. And also we have better time to market for from research to product. So these are some of the benefits of cognitive radio. And when you take the applications of cognitive radio, it tries to determine the geographic location, identify and authorize the user, encrypt and decrypt the signals, and also adjust the output power and the modulation channels. Then when you take the cellular applications, it is used in mobile networks where the improved spectrum efficiency and improved capacity is being achieved. In public safety, it provides its application interoperability and coexistence. In military systems, it could go for unmanned aircraft systems, emergency case and smart grid vehicular networks and other things. So in all these ways, there are many new applications that is being derived for the cognitive radio. Coming to the challenges in cognitive radio, here the physical layer challenges lies in how you use the available spectrum, how to decide which bands to use and which bands not to be utilized, and how to perform spectrum aggregation, then how to squeeze into the spectrum without causing any interferences, then how to configure the radio and network adaptability, and the SDR challenges like ADC, DAC, processing, the power constraint. Particularly when we go into green cognitive radio, the power constraints plays a very important role. Then the significant research here would be on the information collection modeling, the decision processes or the learning process involved here, the hardware support, the regulatory constraints, and the need of some way to ensure the adaptations to get a better network, to optimize the network, and the testing, verification, and the validation that has been incorporated in the CR, the security issues. And also the biggest challenge in terms of consumer would be the cost, the size of it, the weight of it, and in green communication, it would be the energy consumption and the power constraints that is being involved here. So there are different challenges in different areas. So what is our purpose would be to identify what area we are going to work, and in bringing out the best or bringing out the optimized way in which you can utilize it in a better way. It can be just by developing algorithms for spectrum sensing, or it can be using any AI or ML algorithms which can bring in a better optimized output. It can be anything. So coming into the basic architecture of cognitive radio, here we have the basic architecture which would address the endogenous and the exogenous components. Here, the exogenous component executes and enforces the external policies. It will also address the radio's impact on the external environment, and it ensures the it would also ensure that the behavior of the radio would satisfy the constraints that is being imposed by the external regulations and policies. For example, when you take an exogenous component, it can assist the radio in avoiding the spectrum interferences while searching for spectrum opportunities. Conversely, when you take an endogenous component, this internally optimizes the performance of the radio through selection of operating mode and other parameters. It helps in choosing the proper operating mode in which it can be used here. So getting into the abstract architecture of this, we have 8 components that has been involved here. First is the sensors. So when we take the sensor, it helps in implementing the dynamic spectrum access. Here they're used to collect the information from external environment, and it will help in discovering the available spectrum and the transmission opportunities that is being used here. Next is when you take the RF, the radio frequency component is used to transmit and receive signals. Next, getting into the radio platform, it includes the digital signal processing and the software control. It provides the interfaces to communicate with RF, sensors, information source, and sync, and the policy reasons. And next, getting into the SSR, that is System Strategy Reasoner. Here, it is an endogenous component of cognitive radio, and it forms the strategies to control the operation of the radio. And the strategies would reflect the spectral opportunities, the capabilities of the radio and waveform, and the needs of the network and the users. Next is policy conformance reasoner. It is an exogenous component, and it executes the active policy set in order to ensure that the radio transmission conforms to the policy. Next is the policy enforcer. Here it acts as a gatekeeper between the SSR and the radio platform. It ensures that all the transmission decisions that has been sent from the SSR to the radio platform will comply with the active policy that has been enabled. Next, getting into the global policy repository, it stores all the policies and specific subsets that has been configured for specific networks, which has been shared across the networks. The local policy repository will be within the SSR. It can download the policies from the GPR through an interface, and a radio node will store multiple sets of these policies, but only one set will be taken at a time and it will be used. And this SSR, it is said to be the most important component in this architecture because there are multiple interactions that has been involved here. So these interactions would be between SSR and the PCR. Here it will send a request or query to the PCR when the radio needs to change its transmission strategy, or at the end of the validity time period for a permitted transmission opportunity alone, it will be used. The next interaction is between the SSR and the RF. Here, all the incoming messages from the RF will first go to the radio platform. Then from there, the radio message will go to the information sink, where the control message will end up in the SSR. Similarly, all the outgoing control messages will be generated by SSR and it will be passed through the policy enforcer to ensure all the control messages conform to the policy that has been defined. Then the policy enforcer will forward all the control message to the radio platform. The outgoing data message and the control message will be merged in the radio platform, and then it will be sent out through the RF. The last interaction will be between the SSR and the sensor. Here the sensor will collect the information of the environment. It will discover the spectrum and the transmission opportunities. Then the analysis of the sense data can occur in the sensor or the SSR. The SSR can also have or will also send control message to the sensor. So this is about the upstairs architecture. So here it is said to be the physical architecture of the cognitive radio. So when you take this physical architecture, the main component would be the RF front end and the baseband processing unit. Each component here can be configured through a control bus to adapt to the time varying RF environment. So in this RF front end, the received signal will be amplified, it will be mixed, and it will be AD converted. In the baseband processing unit, the signal will be modulated or demodulated. It can be encoded or decoded. So the baseband processing unit of cognitive radio is similar to that of the existing transceivers, but the novelty of cognitive radio is this RF front end. So we focus on how novel this RF front end is being designed for the cognitive radio. So here, the features would be RF filter, which will select the desired band by band pass filtering the received RF signal. Then it will be the low noise amplifier, which will amplify the desired signal while minimizing the noise component. The next would be the mixer. It will the received signal will be mixed with the locally generated RF frequency, and it will be converted to the baseband or the intermediate frequency. Next, this voltage controlled oscillator will generate a signal specific to the specific frequency, and it will help in converting the incoming signal to baseband or higher. Then the PLL here will ensure that a signal is being logged on a specific frequency and can be used to generate the precise frequencies. And the channel selection filters will help in selecting the desired channel and to reject the other adjacent channels. And there are many types of selection filters that can be used here. And the automatic gain control here, it would maintain the gain or the output power level of an amplifier constant over a wide range of input signals. And the limitations that will be here would be on developing the cognitive radio front end. So the wideband RF antenna will receive signals from various transmitters operating at different power levels, bandwidth, locations. And as a result of it, the RF front end will have the capability to detect a weak signal in a larger dynamic range, and it should be able to give an optimized output from here. So the key challenge here would be the inaccurate detection of the weak signals of the licensed users over a wide spectrum range. So the implementation of this RF front end and the AD converter are considered to be the critical issues in next generation networks. Either it can be 5G or anything that we use here. So there are different perspectives of cognitive radio. The important features that would be taken here for a cognitive radio are the design rules, the functional components, and the other features, the other components that has been involved here would be coming under the cognitive radio architecture 1. Next, when you take the cognitive radio architecture 2, here we'll be explaining about the cognition cycle alone, where we'll have an OOPDA loop. We'll see in detail about what is this OOPDA loop. That will define you about the entire cognitive functionality or the cognitive capability that is being involved here. Next is about the inference hierarchy. This inference hierarchy will explain about how it moves or how the architecture helps in involving the other features or the other components in the cognitive radio. The architectural mapping will help you in designing the cognitive radio from the SDR architecture. So the cognitive radio architecture 4 and 5 will help you in building the cognitive radio feature upon the SDR architecture. We'll concentrate more on, so each of this is a separate research topic on which you can work. We'll concentrate on cognition cycle alone, because here we would understand how the cognitive capability is being achieved, how reconfigurability is achieved. And here we have incorporation of many ML algorithms, which will help in giving out a better optimized output. So we'll concentrate only on cognition cycle. So when you take this cognition cycle, here we have different epochs. Apart from setting out different design rules by which the cognitive level of information services may be achieved, there are specific set of components that will support the evolution of this cognition cycle. So here, the cycle will implement the capabilities that has been required for the cognitive radio. First, a stimuli will enter into the cognitive radio as a sensory instrument that would be dispatched cycle. Observe, sense, and perceive the environment, and it will orient itself according to the plan that is being executed here. The cognitive radio's flow of control, it will move into the cycle from observation and getting into action. So here, the special features that would synchronize the inferences in different phases. So first, the process is called wake epoch because the primary reasoning activities during this epoch of time are reactive to the environment, and it is said to be the larger epoch. And it will we'll refer to sleep epochs for power down conditions, and we'll look into the dream epochs for performing computationally intensive pattern recognition and learning. And the prayer epoch will be involved for interacting with higher authority, such as network infrastructure, and based upon which how it needs to work. So during the wake epoch, the receipt of the new stimuli on any cognitive radio sensor or the completion of prior cognition cycle will initiate a new primary cognition cycle. So the cognitive radio Are you hearing me, sir? Hello? Hello, sir? Okay. So the cognitive radio will observe its environment by parsing information systems or streamings. These will include monitoring and the speech to context conversion of radio broadcasts. And in the observation phase, a cognitive radio will read the location, temperature, and light level sensors among the other parameters to infer the user's communication context. Then we have the observe, orient, plan, decide, act, that is OOPDA loop. It is the it is the primary cycle where the learning, planning, sensing, all these crucial phases will be included. When we take the observe phase, it will sense and perceive the environment by accepting multiple stimulus in different dimensions, by binding these stimuli all together, or more typically in subsets, to prior the experience so that it can subsequently detect the time sensitive stimulus and generate better plans of action. So cognitive radio will continuously aggregate the experience, and it will compare this experience with the prior aggregates to the current situation. And this cognitive radio will aggregate this experience by remembering everything which has been included here. So the computational architecture for remembering and rapidly correlating the current experience against everything is the core capability of the cognitive radio architecture. So a novel detectors will identify this new stimuli using new aspects of the familiar stimuli that is being used here. And the orient phase is the next phase. It will help in establishing the priority which to be executed first. And it determines the significance of an observation by binding the observation to a previously known set of stimuli in the scene. And the orient phase will contain the internal data structures that will constitute the equivalent short-term memory that the people use here in order to engage in a dialogue without necessarily remembering everything in the same degree or in the same way as the long-time memory. So the matching the current stimuli to the stored response will be achieved by stimulus recognition and binding. So after this, it will get into the planning phase. So here, most of the stimuli will be dealt deliberately rather than very much reactively. Here, it will look into the incoming network message with generating a plan, whether it comes through the when it comes through the normal path. So this planning will have a plan generation, and the plan phase should also include reasoning about the time, the reactive responses, and it should be pre-programmed or it should be defined by the network because it is a normal plan. The open source planning tools will enable the embedding of the planning subsystems into the cognitive radio architecture. And next would be the decide phase. Here it will select among the candidate plans. So we have the urgent plans or the normal plans, all this. So this deciding phase will detect phase that will select among the candidate plans. Here, the radio might have the choice to alert the user to an incoming message or to defer the interruption until the next screening calls is being involved here. Next, getting into the acting phase, here it initiates the selected processors using effector modules. So there are many effector modules which are being initiated by externally oriented actions, or it can be internally oriented actions. Coming into the learning phase, which is an important phase, it is a function of perception, observation, decision, and action, everything involved here. The initial learning here would be mediated by the observing phase and the perception hierarchy. It also occurs through introduction of new modules in response to the existing models and case-based reasoning bindings. So any algorithm that can be used here, that can also be involved here. Then the learning mechanism occurs with the new types of SCR models that will be created in response to the action, which will include self-monitoring, retrospection, and reaching out. So when you take here, overall, it will get the sensor stimuli from the outside environment. It will have a look on the environment in which it works. Then it would orient according to the environment. It will establish priority, whether it should execute immediately or it should execute in a normal plan. Then it will get into the planning. It will decide what to be done. Then it will get into action. And the learning phase will give you information about the previous state, the next state, all the information. With the incorporation of all these information, then the processing of it would be taken out. So this is one important, or you can say to be the heart of cognitive radio, which will help you in performing this cognitive capability of sensing the environment, learning the environment, and adapting according to the environment in which the application or in which the cognitive radio is being used. Coming into the main functions, so spectrum sensing, spectrum management, spectrum sharing, and spectrum mobility, these are said to be the main functions of cognitive radio. As I told you, spectrum sensing is said to be the more important task of cognitive radio. So it will help you in detecting the unused portion of the spectrum, that is the spectrum mode. So it will detect whether the spectrum management is capturing the best spectrum in order to meet the communication requirements, and spectrum sharing is. So I'm unable to hear anyone speaking. Is anyone speaking? Hello?
Madam, tell me, madam.
Sir, I found someone speaking, so I thought someone was asking something.
Okay, I unmuted everybody, madam, so that they can
Okay,
ask
sir.
questions.
Okay, sir.
So
Okay.
we'll mute them, madam.
Okay, sir. Okay. So spectrum sharing is providing a fair spectrum scheduling method or modeling among the users in order to distribute the spectrum among the users. Next would be the spectrum mobility. Here it helps you in performing a proper transition. So when a new channel, when a new spectrum hole is identified, then we have to move from that portion of the spectrum hole to the other portion. That is spectrum mobility. So the important, the heart of this cognitive radio, which will help you in opportunistically use the spectrum, which will help you in performing it, would be the spectrum sensing. So here it is detecting the presence of the primary user when it is being free. So here it can be achieved by local spectrum sensing and cooperative spectrum sensing. Earlier, local spectrum sensing was mostly used, but now we get into the use of cooperative spectrum sensing. So here when you take one user will make decision of whether the primary user is present or not. That would be the local spectrum sensing. We have many algorithms that has been defined here. In cooperative spectrum sensing, we'll have multiple cognitive radio user, which will help you in detecting the presence of the primary user. So this multiple cognitive radio users, all these users will give information either in terms of energy, or it give information either as logical ones or logical zeros, through which we'll calculate whether the primary user is present or not. Here, there are multiple sensing schemes, transmitter detection or cooperative detection or interference detection. Among all this, cooperative detection is best preferably used because it will give you a better output. And among the other local sensing algorithms, we go for energy detection. Energy detection is the best preferred one because there is no need of the prior knowledge of the primary signal, and it is easy and fast to implement. While in other cases, it will have better detection performance, but the prior information of the signal would be needed. Or in cyclostationary method, you will have more computational complexity. In eigenvalue method, it is difficult to find the threshold selection. So we have multiple positives and minus of different spectrum sensing schemes, and preferably we go in use of energy detection because there is no need of the prior information needed. The prior information, calculating it and using it would be more difficult. So we preferably use energy detection method. Coming into the cooperative spectrum sensing, as I told, there are multiple cognitive radio users, and all this cognitive radio users which will be used, all the cognitive radio users will send its information. Here we have the fusion center to combine it. So there are fusion rules for hard combining and soft combining. So the logical combination of the decisions sent by each of the user. So we have L number of users. This L number of users will give 0 and 1. Whether if it is the primary user is present, it will give you 1. If the primary user is not present, it will give you 0. So the zeros and ones will be either combined by AND rule or rule or K out of N rule, the majority rule. So based upon that, the fusion center will decide whether the primary user is present or not. That will be the hard combining rule in cooperative spectrum sensing. In the soft combining rule, we'll take the energy of the cognitive radio, and this energy will be calculated. We can use different patterns, or we can use different algorithms in order to find out. So everything will be based upon the energy, and from this energy you can calculate whether the primary user is present or not. That is soft combined. So in centralized sensing, when I told you the fusion center that has been involved here, it will collect the information from the multiple cognitive devices. It will identify the output, and it will broadcast this information to the other users. When you take a distributed sensing, here all the cognitive nodes or all the cognitive radio users will share the information about each other, and final decisions also will be shared together, and it will be communicated. In external sensing, an external agent will perform sensing, and this will broadcast the channel occupancy about the information that is needed to be given to the cognitive radios. So the important advantage of using cooperative spectrum sensing would be it will help in solving the hidden user problem. That is, if you use only one cognitive radio user, and if this radio user is affected by a hidden user problem, then the output will go wrong. But when you have multiple cognitive radio users, so this particular cognitive radio user's output alone will be the wrong. Other users will give a positive, or it will give a better output from which the correct presence or absence of the primary user can be detected. So it will decrease the probability of misdirection and false alarm. It will decrease the sensing time, and it will affect the fading problems. It will minimize the problem that has been caused due to fading or hidden user or whatever it might be. It will be independent of fading and shadowing problems. That is why we get into use of cooperative spectrum sensing. So there are multiple challenges which we face here. That would be the decision fusion that has been involved here, the hidden primary user problem, the security issues, the regulatory issues. There are many issues which is being faced by spectrum sensing. Next, coming into the important part of the performance metrics or the measurements, the important performance metrics would be the probability of detection, false alarm probability, and probability of missed detection. So when the primary user is present, we get into the hypothesis of H1. When the primary user is absent, we get into the hypothesis of H0. Here, the test statistics, that is the energy, it will help you to define the quantity of the measure that will help you in distinguishing this two hypotheses. First is the probability of detection. So here, what is the case would be is when the test statistics is greater than the threshold, when the desired, that is when the primary user is present. then the test statistics calculated should be greater than the threshold. So the higher value here will ensure that the primary user is present here. This will occur during the hypothesis H1. So when a primary user is present and your test statistic calculates that the primary user is present, then that is the probability of detection. False alarm probability is your primary user is absent. There is no primary user. But your test statistic gives you the output that the primary user is present. That is, when there is no primary user, we detect that the primary user is present. A false alarm of the primary user is given. That is false alarm probability. Probability of misdirection is something. The primary user is present, but your algorithm gives you an output that the primary user is not present. That is probability of misdirection. These are the three important parameters that will help you to identify whether your algorithm is good or not, whether your cognitive radio is working in a proper way or not. Always the probability of detection should be high. When the probability of detection is good, then it means your user is said to be in a better condition. False alarm probability and probability of misdirection should be minimum, should be less. That is the proper working nature of a cognitive radio. Coming into the artificial intelligence techniques. So here, 1 minute. Artificial intelligence techniques that lies in the heart of the cognitive radio. It will help you in understanding the trade-offs in the selection and the design process of a process that will be critical. That would be one of the critical part in the design of a successful cognitive radio. There are multiple artificial intelligence techniques that will give you information according to the knowledgeable decisions that can be taken in cognitive radio. 1 minute. So here we'll have a look on different artificial intelligence techniques that will use the emissions in the cognitive radio. One of the popular AI technique was expert system. This was very successful in some applications, particularly in the early development of AI, like Dendral project in organic chemistry and all they used. But nowadays, expert systems, preferably with the previous artificial intelligence, is not being used. So the other algorithms or the other techniques which has been involved here for cognitive radio design, for designing of any cognitive radio would be, the base one would be the neural network. So it is one of the oldest form of AI, starting from the mathematical formulation from Macaulay-Pitts in early 1943. This is said to be one of the important algorithm that is being used. And it provides the means of signal and modulation, detection and classification, and signal classification algorithms with decision theoretic and pattern matching was involved. And the use of neural networks in modulation classification has become a well-accepted technique, using both in time-based statistics and frequency analysis inputs. And in signal classification, they take multiple noisy input items and provide highly accurate answers according to the type of modulation that has been represented here. Next, coming into the different types of artificial neural networks. ANN has hundreds or thousands of artificial neurons that has been involved in processing units for interconnection of many nodes. And they develop new network configurations and training methods, allowing for multitude of different applications. And there are many types of artificial neural networks that has been available. The most common ones that has been used for cognitive radio are multi-layer, that is MLPN, NPN, and RBFN. So first is multi-layer linear perceptron networks. It has many layers of neurons, each being a linear combination of the previous layers outputs. And generally, the weights for the linear combination are randomly chosen before training, and it can be updated using several methods like backpropagation, genetic algorithm, or combination of methods. So the performance of such training algorithms is dependent upon the size of the network and its application. And hybrid training methods can be used here to extract the best feature from each, such as pre-training a network with a genetic algorithm, and then refining the output using backpropagation. It can be anything. Next, coming into the nonlinear perceptron networks, by introducing nonlinearity into the network through squaring the inputs or cross-multiplying two inputs, the network can be customized to fit the sample set. Although there are multiple NPNs, can provide highly flexible and dynamic results. Their network configuration must often reflect the data that they represent. So further, backpropagation for training the weights in the neurons may be slow to converge, requiring significant processing time to achieve precise results. Coming into RBFN, it is similar to NPN. It has a built-in distance criteria with respect to a center, that is a radial nonlinear function in its hidden layer. And this transformation has the advantage of preventing the network from settling into local minimals, which is the common problem with most of the perceptron networks. And the function is used here would be usually Gaussian, but Euclidean distance and other methods can also be used here. And the training often be implemented with gradient descent algorithm. Next, coming into the hidden Markov model. This was first introduced in late 1960s. It is a convenient and the mathematical trackable statistical model that would describe and analyze the dynamic behavior of the complex random phenomena that can be modeled as Markov process with observable and unobservable states. And the hidden Markov model, it generates sequences of observation symbols by making transitions from state to state, one symbol per transistor. However, the states are hidden and only the output will be observable. In general, the real world process can be expressed as a random process producing a sequence of observation symbols or patterns with hidden parameters, generating the observables. And it will use the past data to help predict the future actions. And it is used in most of the communication models, preferably with cognitive radios. And the channel modeling that has been extensively using this Markov model that is being used here. And there are three basic, the most famous here is Gilbert-Elliott, that is two-state model, because here it describes a channel as in either a good, it will help you in explaining a channel whether it is good or bad. And when one state, there is a probability of either staying in the state or moving to the other state, the channel properties, determining the transition probabilities, all this can be calculated here. As stated here, there are three key problems for hidden Markov model with the real world applications. First is evaluation or recognition problem. Here, given the parameter of a model, say it to be lambda, compute the probability of a particular observation sequence. The forward backpropagation algorithm will help you in solving this. Similarly, when you take the decoding problem, here the observation sequence will find the sequence of the hidden state that will explain you about the observing sequence. It will be solved by a Viterbi algorithm. Then the training and the learning problem, it will give an observation sequence and find the most likely set of transition and observation system probabilities. That is, it will help you in estimating the HM and lambda of it. So this a problem can be solved by Born-Welch algorithm. And HMMs in channel model use genetic algorithm as the training method in order to develop compact channel models based on information. The idea here is to use the HMM as a sensor to understand the channel behavior in cognitive engine. And the HMMs are used in classification schemes in order to use the models for decision making in cellular networks. And it has been used in cognitive radio research, preferably for spectrum sensing in cognitive radio. It can also be used for spectrum occupancy predictions also, this model. Next, coming into the fuzzy logic, as we know, it is one of the very famous technique started from the early development of artificial intelligence. It deals with uncertainty in decision making and analysis. It has great potential for application in cognitive radio. Their implementation would suggest some interesting applications and the discussion points for larger users than the specific applications that will be adapting to the TCP layer. The problematic aspect here is the domain specific rules that is being required. You have a set of rules and regulations. All the implementations of AI would require domain specifications, but fuzzy logic must establish a rule related to the specific situation in which it is used, and it can be recalled. It recalls some of the limitations of the expert systems, and it has the potential in either specific problem solving areas or a subset or a part of the cognitive radio. Coming into the meta heuristic algorithms, this also was earlier defined in 1980s. It can be traced back to the earlier work with stochastic optimization methods. So explicit relations between the parameters of a cognitive radio and the desired performance metrics are usually not available. Therefore, search algorithms based on the mathematical relations cannot be applied to find the optimal parameters with respect to the performance metrics. So meta-heuristic algorithms can be applied to computationally hard problems to search through the solution space, which will help you in learning and establishing the requested relationship. So the important algorithms that will be brought into account here would be the genetic algorithms or the evolutionary algorithms. Here it has been these genetic algorithms draw their inspiration from genetic evolution and the natural selection of species in nature, as we know, as the name itself indicates. This is widely adopted to solve multi-objective optimization problems and dynamically configure the cognitive radio in response to the changing environment. And it offers significant amount of power and flexibility. So this can be preferably used for green communication, particularly when you face dynamic environments and situations where it need to be changed according to the needs or according to the requirements of a specific application or specific power constraint. Then this can be used because it will be able to select, or it will be able to fix an objective function based upon which you need to work. That itself becomes a problem here, because the selection of the fitness function or the objective function is a main issue here. And a single linear objective function has been developed in order to combine the objectives of bit error rate minimization or power minimization or throughput minimization. The use of genetic algorithm can be used for multidimensional problem analysis too. Next, getting into the other things, like when you state here the simulated annealing. Here it is the simple approach for global optimization in large research space. This simulated annealing, it is motivated by the annealing process in metallurgy, where it involves a process of controlled slow cooling of heated melt to reduce or remove the defects and achieve perfect crystallization. That the same algorithm is being used. Next, when you take the Tabu search, it enhances the performance of search method by using a memory structure, that is Tabu search. The basic elements here are the memory structures, that is called the Tabu list. This list will ensure that a recent move is not repeated or reversed often. It uses memory in different ways to guide the search procedure, and the role of memory can change according to the search that has been proceeded here. Next, coming into the ant colony optimization. Here it is inspired by the behavior of ants in finding the shortest path from the colonies to food resources. So when you note the ants will initially wander, and upon finding the food, it will return to their colony, laying laying a trailing end to it. So by finding a pheromone trail, the other ants will follow the same trail rather than randomly wandering. So a successful trail will be from its position to the food will be created. So the same algorithm will be used here. So this ant colony optimization will minimize the ant behavior with simulated ants walking around a graph that would represent the problem to solve the problem by finding an optimized algorithm, an optimized path from source to destination. These are some of the meta-heuristic algorithms in cognitive radio. Next, coming into the rule-based system. Here the rules are extracted from specific application area. Either it can be automatic way or in manual way in decision making for that particular domain. The idea here is to it consists of the fundamental elements. It will be the idea of RBS is developed from the basic expert, the oldest expert system, that is the Dendral one. And it will have the function elements like rule base and inference engine. In rule base, it will have a list of permanent rules. In inference engine, it will infer the information or it will take the information based upon the input and the rule base. So this rule base can be expressed in the different sets of defining the inference engine. The input will be tested against the conditions, and the actions are taken if the conditions will be satisfied alone. The order in which the rules are executed is not critical to the final result as long as all the rules are being executed here. This is different from the most procedural programs where the orders will be taken to be very important. When you take the operation of inference engine, there are two broad sets of inference engine, that is forward chaining and backward chaining. In forward chaining, new data trigger rules whose conditions are met and the conclusions are drawn based on these rules. So the conclusions can further trigger other rules to generate new conclusions. And this process will continue until no more rules can be triggered. So in other words, it is said to be the forward chaining. And here it is said to be that is the inference engine is data driven. That is according to the data, according to the output of the data, the inference engine will be triggered. On the contrary, the backward chaining, here a particular goal will be set and will be moving towards the goal. So in order to prove the goal, the rule whose conclusions match to the goal that will be identified, and that will be taken into process. So the conditions of those rules that will meet the goals will be taken as the new rules, and this process will continue until the new conditions are identified. Here, according to the goal, the engine will be moving. In forward chaining, what is the data, and according to the output of the data, the engine will be moving. So these are the two broad sets of rule-based engine. So you can categorize anything. So according to your application, you set power to be the constraint, you set energy to be the constraint, anything you can set. And accordingly, you can progress with the algorithm that can be used. Next is ontology-based algorithm. So here it is an explicit, shared, and a formal representation of a set of concepts within a domain and relationship among these concepts. And it need to be accepted or shared in a community to make it really very useful. And the ontology, it includes classes, instances, attributes, and relations. The classes is a set of objects in the model domain. Instances will be individuals belonging to the classes, and attributes will be the properties of the objects, and relations will be the links between the various entities. And an ontology is being expressed using an ontology language in order to facilitate machine processing. That is OBS language. There are a number of OBS languages, and the three commonly used ones are XML, that is, it is an ISO standard that will allow the relations among any number of entities that can be used here. Next is RDF, that is a resource description framework. It is the World Wide Web Consortium standard that allows relations between two entities. Next it is Web Ontology language. It is similar to that of the World Wide Web Consortium standard, but it allows relations between two entities. It is an extension of the RDF. So you can note that RDF and OWL, that is Web Ontology language, are fundamental technologies for the semantic web, which is the web of data, instead of the web of documents, which is human readable. Web of data would be computer manipulatable. The last one would be the case-based reasoning. It is the final traditional AI technique that has been used here. Here, it uses the past knowledge to learn and improve the future actions. It will store the actions and it will receive the input from the sensor. And the input will help you to find the action in case base, and it will fit into the new case. And the characteristics here will include the capability to solve the problems with partially understood domains, the capability to to provide an unique explanation, and the close resemblance to the human reasoning process. And the key issues here would be that the performance relies on the previous cases, and if the previous case has been incorrectly solved, then that mistake will propagate and it will move further. In addition, for a complex domain where the system requires a large case database to represent its characteristics, populating and searching such as case database can be time consuming, and it can be sometimes even more difficult. So in this case, integration with other techniques like RBS may be necessary to improve the performance, and it will also help in reducing the time to build and search the case database. So the important modules here would be case representation and indexing module. Here, format the input information such that it can be understood by the other modules of the system. Next is case selection and retrieval module. Here it will search the case database and obtain cases that will satisfy the request under certain criteria. Next is case evaluation and adaptation module. Here it will evaluate the performance of the retrieved case for the new problem based on some criteria, and it will help in modifying the case if its performance is not satisfactory. The last one would be the case database population and maintenance module. Here it will populate the initial case database and it will insert new cases, and it will update the existing cases and remove the redundant cases if necessary. So the application of this case-based reasoning is cognitive radios can use to determine acceptable solution or action according to the current environmental base, and it will help you in multi-objective optimization in implementing of new building blocks, or where your technology or where your algorithm needs an optimization. In those cases, this can be used because the past knowledge can be used here in order to improve the future actions. So a database will be calculated, and accordingly you can get an optimized output. So that is about the different AI algorithms that can be used in cognitive radio. While you come to designing of cognitive radio, green cognitive radio networks, the important challenges that we would face here is proper optimization of dynamic spectrum axis, achieving a dynamic spectrum axis algorithm. So for this, proper spectrum sensing need to be achieved. The next thing would be the energy harvesting and the optimal utilization of the green energy that is to be incorporated here. So we have to look into sensors that will reduce the power consumption, that will help you in energy harvesting. You can look into ML algorithms that would really support these features. So a better designing of green cognitive radio can be achieved. So as we told, the sustainable development of green cognitive radio would be minimizing the energy, minimizing the power, anything relating to the environmental conditions, help in achieving a good environmental conditions. So designing such a cognitive radio needs two important things. One is designing the cognitive radio based upon the cognitive capability, where the usage of spectrum can be limited and the usage of spectrum can be utilization of spectrum can be better efficiently utilized. And the other feature would be adding multiple parameters to it, where you can include the energy constraints or power constraints or whatever it might be. So designing a green cognitive radio involves multiple features of incorporating machine learning algorithms or AI algorithms to it, by defining or by designing a better cooperative spectrum sensing to it, spectrum sensing algorithm to it. You can design it in any way. You can use a hard combining rule, you can use a soft combining rule, you can use any rule to get a better model. So there are multiple papers that has been brought here, brought into this research aspect of defining models which will help you in opportunistically utilizing the spectrum. There are multiple models which will include multiple layers in which different sensors can be used in different layers. So there are different ways of approaching this design. So a basic understanding of cognitive radio will help you to enter into this designing of green cognitive radio. So I think with this understanding on cognitive radio, you will be able to define better ML algorithms. You'll be able to bring out a better model for opportunistically utilizing the spectrum for achieving dynamic spectrum access or anything relating to the cognitive capability and reconfigurability. So I thank you for giving me this opportunity. So if you have any questions, you can.
Yes, dear participants, if you have any questions, please ask the madam. Yeah, some questions are there in chat box, madam. Shall I read it?
Yes, sir, you can read it, sir.
Yeah. What is the operating frequency range of CR? They're asking.
The cellular range can be used, sir. The same cellular
Operating
range can
frequency
be
range.
used.
Then what is the optimum threshold level in ED? They're asking. That is energy detection.
The optimum threshold level, one important thing I would like to tell here is the optimum threshold level can be defined and generated by you according to the application. You can set a threshold level. You can define algorithms for it. That is where our point lies. So you can, my work was on a soft combining algorithm. I worked on a soft combining algorithm where I take the energy and I try to define a threshold level. You can define it on your own. That is where you develop algorithms. My work was on mean cumulative sum algorithm. I developed an algorithm where I try to set a threshold level using which you can develop.
Yes, dear participants, you can mute by yourself and you can ask questions if you have any questions to the speaker. Hello. Yes, am I audible, dear participants? If you have any queries to ask, you can ask. Thank you, madam. I'm audible. Fine.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.
No, wait, will 1 or 2 minutes, madam, if they ask.
Okay, sir.
Madam, any open source simulator for carrying out research on cognitive radio?
Sir?
Any open source simulator?
Open source simulator. I have used only MATLAB to work on it. Not I need to look into it, sir.
But in MATLAB, how do you create this cognitive capabilities, madam. It is all just logic, no?
I didn't get you, sir.
In MATLAB, how do you
Okay.
create this cognitive capabilities?
So creating cognitive capability is, as someone asked, it is defining the threshold and it is finding the optimal value of it. No, sir. We are getting into the simulation part alone, no?
Fine, madam, but sensing part you have to leave. That is a real time. This one, sensing the surrounding environment. That is about frequency usage. That we
Yes,
need
sir.
to assume, and then further we have to do other processes.
Sir, we are doing it in calculating the probability of detection. As I mentioned, we rely only on the metrics of probability of detection and probability of missed detection and probability of false alarm. We try to analyze the better algorithm defined on these parameters only, sir.
Okay. No, other than MATLAB, can you mention any other, even at least licensed versions are available for carrying out this research?
Apart from MATLAB, you're asking, sir?
Madam.
No idea, sir. I have to look into it whether something is available.
No, what is the status of research of this cognitive radio in the 5G, madam?
Cognitive radio technology is imbibed in 5G, sir.
Ah,
But as we mentioned, this specification varies from country to country. In India, we have a separate specification. Particularly in China, Korea, and Japan, we have a separate specification. In US and Europe, we have a separate specification. So according to the specifications in India, the cognitive capability is not that much needed because based on the population or based upon the installation, we just try to incorporate CR, that is the adaptability of cognitive radio. But as of now, we have not into deployment. No, sir. It is just the test bed that has been in IIT Madras, and might be after it gets into deployment, we'll know whether, because already all our 4G phones are on SDR.
yes, madam.
CR has been incorporated in 5G phones, but how the capability of it would be used will be known only after the deployment of it.
Means whether it will be underlay or overlay.
No idea.
No. Because in literature, so much of information is available. It is actually last from 2 decades. A lot of research is going on especially
Yes,
wireless cognitive radio, and at least
Yes.
last from 10 years, I think, on cognitive optical networks also a lot of research is going on.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Cognitive optical networks.
Yeah. Only after they deploy it, we'll be able to know what actually they are using.
Okay.
Because the literature part of it is different from what has been implemented.
Correct, madam. Yeah.
I actually learning into 5G. Actually, it was surprising for me to look into people working on very advanced technologies on 5G simulation results of 5G. But actually, in deployment, we are not yet into all those features.
Okay, madam.
When we get into deployment, it is actually very different and very difficult when it has been practically implemented and practically when it has been implemented. But on the simulation part, we have developed far more on the literature, but that is not yet into the deployment.
Okay.
So after it has been deployed only, we'll be able to know what all is being accepted and what all is being possible.
Means is this technology is already matured enough, madam?
Which one, sir, you're asking about?
This cognitive radio technology, because last from 2 decades it is.
Yes, sir. But there are two problems here. Actually, in India, we don't have only research publications have been going on in cognitive radio. We don't practically implement a situation, or we don't practically implement anything on relating to cognitive radio. Only US developed it, and only they have two implementation setups where they work on cognitive radio practically. No other places or nobody else is ready to work on this research. Or we have as many, not only in cognitive radio, as many other technologies, we are just into publishing papers, or we are just into bringing out simulation results, but not into implementing it. Only US has tried to implement this cognitive radio structure, and they have only got the license of utilizing it and using it.
In US, madam.
Yes, sir.
In US, they have given the license for implementing CR, madam.
Yes, sir. US and Europe only they've tried it, and it is not. They are into and they tell it that they are almost stopped the usage of the licensed and unlicensed user incorporation, but not sure about how they have uh, proceeded it further. Only they have two centers working on cognitive radio implementation, how they are going to incorporate it, whether they are going to use this, allow this secondary users to further process for multiple things. We are into research, or we are into only simulation part of it, sir.
Yes, madam. Yeah, because in literature we find so much, madam, cognitive radio,
Yes,
wireless
so
sensor
much.
network.
Actually, I came to know about this difference only when after working in 5G testbed. Because what we worked was entirely different from what the publications I read. After moving out from IIT, when
Yes.
I started reading about 5G publications, I could not understand anything, because everything was very different from what we were doing in IIT.
Correct.
The process there is very different, and the literature, the publications, the what do you say, the simulations, everything is very different. So this is entirely very different, and the implementation part is entirely very different. Then only I understood that cognitive radio implementation is also in the same way. Actual implementation is something very different, and where only very few people are working on the
But-
implementation part of it. But literature, on the publications, on the simulation results, there is as you said, for decades they are working, and we have huge number of publications. But practically
Okay,
speaking, that is not the case of cognitive radio implementation too.
Because so much they visualized, and they say overlay, underlay, even coexistence,
Yes, sir.
ad hoc,
Yes.
even with the different bands and all.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But
one
in
question is there
implementation,
in
it is very
chat
low.
box, madam, that is about spectrum trading they are asking.
Spectrum trading, I don't have any idea about spectrum trading. My work was more into spectrum sensing. The spectrum trading, the one which we come across, no sir, what with spectrum, which license, which we are going to authorize and use it. So there are many algorithms where spectrum trading can be involved, in research on spectrum trading is very different from what the technical aspect of cognitive radio is.
Yeah, another question from Revati, madam, sir, madam. It is what is the best tool to implement cognitive radio?
To implement cognitive radio, I have no idea, ma'am. Only that's what I told you, know. When I started working in CR, I also started working with multiple features, whatever is available in the literature, and I worked with CR, and I had publications. When I started working with 5G only, then only I understood that the implementation of cognitive radio is different from what we are working. So for implementing cognitive radio practically, I'm not sure about the tool anything can be used. Only the literature simulation part, we can go with MATLAB. That's all.
Yes, dear participants, any questions?
Madam, Sri Haripriya madam, I
ma'am.
have a small doubt about it.
Yes, ma'am.
Madam, you have mentioned about the band and in the spectrum analysis, but energy efficient also you have told. But what happens to the noise problem, madam?
Ma'am, I could not hear you, ma'am. Can you be please little bit be louder?
Okay. You have explained about the spectrum, band analysis, everything, correct? No,
Yes,
madam.
ma'am.
About that noise problem, you have not touched upon, madam.
Yes, ma'am. The noise interferences, the interferences which we calculate, that is the separate. Yes, ma'am. We have many algorithms and other noise mitigation techniques and many other things that has also been involved here.
Okay, because we always think about this is about frequency level we are working on, and in the high frequency level, naturally we look into the noise problem, no, madam. High frequency, we look into the noise problem.
Yes, ma'am. Signal to noise ratio we calculate, no, ma'am, in each and everything.
That's what. Here also we are doing the same thing, madam.
Ma'am?
Here also we are considering signal to noise ratio.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Because it was not mentioned, I had a doubt actually.
Yes, ma'am. When you get into the decision making, the threshold calculation, everything will be taken into account, ma'am. I have not gone into the internal mathematical modeling of it.
Okay. Yeah, in that
Actually, the
way.
mathematical modeling of it will include everything. The
Correct,
signal,
correct.
the noise, the hypothesis, everything will be involved, ma'am. We'll have
Peak response of the frequency will also be there, no, madam?
ma'am?
Peak response of the frequency will also be there.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Correct, madam. Thank you.
Thank you. And about the open source tools, I think apart from MATLAB, I think NetSim can also be used, sir.
NetSim is not open source, ma'am. They are charging.
Yeah. No. Not open source. The other tools that can be used here would be
licensed.
NetSim can be used.
Yeah.
And I think CogNS is an open source simulation framework, sir.
CogNS, madam.
CogNS. I think that can help. I've not worked on it, but I think I remember a few students telling me working on CogNS. So I think CogNS can be open source. If anyone has worked on it, they can share their information. Apart from that, MATLAB and NetSim are the most prominent ones. For routing protocols, Omnet can be used. And
what about channel allocation, madam?
sir?
Channel allocation. Channel allocation mechanisms.
I don't get you, sir, regarding channel allocation.
Can we do by using this MATLAB channel assignment something?
Sir, I'm not sure about the proper implementation of channel allocation, sir. If you're working on any algorithms regarding channel allocation, any scheduling algorithms, that can be worked with MATLAB, sir.
Okay. Fine, madam. Dear participants, do you have any questions to ask? Please ask. Madam is available. Yeah, Revati madam is asking about threshold level setting, madam.
Threshold level setting, as I told you, ma'am, if I can share say 1 minute.
Madam, you were talking about that XML and all that is used for building cognitive capabilities, like for.
No, so we can develop a sensing model. So where you will have H0 hypothesis would be Y1 is equal to W of N. The noise affecting the transmitting signal, and the other one would be when H1 has been under hypothesis H1, it will be input signal plus the noise, and from there we average the signals, and the probability of direction will refer according to the, what do you say? We have I'll try to share it possible. Wait a minute.
Currently, are you handling any project, madam, on cognitive radio?
No, sir. No, sir. Actually, after getting into the PDF, I've not worked on cognitive radio only for subject purpose. I'm using cognitive radio. Apart from that, I'm working on IoT and relating to 5G, and
Right.
those things I'm working with. Try to share the mathematical modeling of it. Able to view my screen, sir?
Not yet, madam. You are not presenting.
Now, sir?
No, also not, madam. Yeah, yes, madam. Yeah.
So this is of developing a cooperative spectrum sensing using mean cumulative sum algorithm. So this is improving the detection performance, that is the probability of detection, and minimizing the error. So while you develop it, first we come into the sensing model. So we develop how many users we are going to take. What is the combining scheme? I've developed it with a soft combining scheme and multiple cognitive radio users. So here we get into the signal model of it, right? So here we go into the definition of the primary user signals, the noise samples, the signal to noise ratio. Then we try to we say it to be Gaussian distributed. We calculate the mean and variance of it. We set it to be with zero mean and variance. And here we get into the local detection. So the energy of the signal can be calculated first. So we use a central limit theorem, and then it can be compared with the threshold value of it. And we can also, from here, we calculate the probability of detection. From the probability of detection, we can calculate the lambda values, the distribution statistic, the statistic upon which we calculate the test statistic, that is the MCS metric. So this MCS metric will help you in calculating the threshold. So it goes on, we calculate the global detection probability, the false alarm probability. Then we can develop, so this can be developed not only for the calculation of probability of detection, it can be for increasing on the number of users or decreasing the number of users, finding out the optimal number of users. So anything can be done here. So that goes on with the energy calculation or the test metric calculation.
Thank you. I have one basic doubt. It is very basic question. Why we consider this mean is 0 and variance is 1, madam? Gaussian.
So that is the base, no, sir.
That is what
That is how
I want to know the reason, because in so many papers, even textbook also.
Yes, the mean 0 and variance 1. That is the.
I wanted to know the reason why. Why?
That is how the Gaussian distribution goes on, no, sir.
Mean is 0, madam. For Gaussian distribution, it's a bell curve, no?
I don't. One minute, sir. I didn't get you.
No, this is a Gaussian curve. It is like almost looks like a bell curve.
Yes, sir. You are asking about
that mean and variance, madam. We consider
always it will be mean 0, mean and variance 1.
Yeah, I'm asking why we are considering 0 and 1. Is there any technical reason to consider mean is 0 and variance is 1?
Yes, sir. We have the technical base of it, no, sir. Then only we'll be able to proceed it, no?
Can you explain, madam, if you don't mind?
No, sir. I'll get in touch with you, sir.
Fine, madam. Fine, madam. Thank you, madam.
Hello, madam.
Yes.
Sir, I have a question, sir. So,
Yeah,
madam,
please.
as you mentioned, you are working in IoT and 5G now. Can you
Yes,
please give some guidelines, madam, how to work progress in IoT with respect to 5G?
Narrowband IoT is one thing that you can incorporate IoT with 5G, ma'am. If the idea varies in a way that how you're going to work on either IoT or 5G. So when you're getting into implementation of it, that would be different, ma'am. When you're getting into the simulation of it, that is different. In what way you try to proceed, ma'am?
By using some simulators, I'm started my research in NB-IoT also, and
Okay.
it's still I'm in research on initial stage only. So I just
Okay.
want to know what are the resource from where I can see the resources and some simulators, open source simulators I can use.
Open source simulators for IoT, we go in use of in the basic simulators.
Little high-end.
Node-RED or
Yes,
you can,
madam. Yeah,
you
Node-RED
can,
also I'm using. I already that IBM Watson, that all that I'm using, madam. Apart from that, to implement this NB-IoT technology, which may be the best simulator, madam, other than MATLAB?
other than MATLAB, NetSim would help you a little bit, ma'am.
Fine. Okay.
Other than that, recently System View and those. MATLAB would be the powerful tool to implement anything, ma'am. When you go into simulation, MATLAB will help you in all ways.
Fine, madam.
Quality
Yes.
simulator.
Yeah. Okay. I'll see, madam. Yeah. Okay. Thank you, madam.
Proteus would support you. Packet Tracer will support you.
Okay.
These things will help you on the IoT side, ma'am. But to incorporate IoT with 5G, I think you can get into MATLAB System View. That will help you in a bit, I think.
Yeah. Thank you, madam. Yeah.
Yes, I hope no more questions, I feel. Thank you very much, madam, for accepting our invitation and sharing your knowledge.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, madam. Dear participants, so attendance link is shared in the chat box. Please fill the attendance link and we'll meet tomorrow sharp at 9:15.